Well, hello and welcome back to our podcast, Behind the Scenes with Santa and Mrs. Claus.
Yeah,
I'm
here
glad
we
you
are.
joined us for another one. And today we're going to pick up where we left off.
Yes.
Like right after the luncheon we talked about on
Yeah.
the last time. And what that helped bring about, it was quite amazing. It's
Yeah,
like somebody flipped the switch.
Yes, it was, and Joe actually through the lunch was able to make some contacts on actually how to secure Santa visits, and so
Which I had absolutely no experience or idea
how to do.
beforehand.
Right,
so,
right.
so it was a huge help. But yeah, talking to the other Santas and what they did
Yep,
and
yep.
finding out, different things. They advised me to hire an agent, which I did. In fact, I had a couple agents.
Yes,
didn't
I believe that you did. Yes,
Yeah, and
yes.
then of course putting me in contact with other Santas that were doing things, because despite the legends, Santa can only be in one place at one time.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Much
yeah.
as we'd like to be in multiple places, so. But yeah, so, and we kind of began our whole journey on that, and it happened rather quickly.
Well, it did. Fortunately, actually, with getting an agent, that honestly made all the difference as far as outside Santa appearances. And then we're going to talk a little bit about. I think we mentioned that we had lived in San Clemente, which in some ways was actually kind of a small town feel, and we were known there, not as much, but still we're starting to get known as Santa and Mrs. Claus, and so some community projects came up that we were able to participate in.
Well, yeah, and going back just a little bit further beyond the Santa thing, I mean, I was writing for the San Clemente Journal
Yes,
at the time.
that's true.
And,
That's true.
And we
yeah,
were
yeah.
also known for our work with the American Cancer Society and
Yes,
the Relay
for Life, because
we headed that up for 2
for
years.
a couple of years. Yes.
So
yes.
we had a pretty good established
foundation. Yeah, yeah,
foundation,
we really did. Yeah.
as Joe and Mary Moore. And
Correct,
then once
correct.
we started our Santa and Mrs. Claus,
Yes, that
just kind of rolled right into that.
everything.
So anything that you've done or anything that we've done beforehand helped us get established into other things. And we did, in fact, I think, isn't that how we got the abused women's shelter?
Domestic abuse.
The domestic abuse
yes.
shelter?
They had reached out to us through that. So there was actually, and I think again, if this is something that you're considering to do as Santa or Santa and Mrs. Claus, because in these particularly for the abuse center, I was part of that. There's probably a lot to do within your community that can help you.
There's a lot of need
in a variety of ways. I mean, we certainly it gave back to us personally in just wonderful emotions. But it also is a contact where people in the community see you and then say, oh, would you do home visits and things like that. So it's networking, partially. Yeah. It's networking.
Absolutely. And, again, it's amazing how many places came to us.
Yes.
That we didn't even know about,
yeah.
But they found out that we were Santa and Mrs. Claus,
exactly.
And they said, hey,
yeah.
I didn't have a business card, I didn't have a flyer,
no.
I didn't have anything. I was so new at the time. I really didn't know what else I needed to do to get myself out there. And luckily, things just kind of happened. So again, there's so much need that it shouldn't be a problem finding, plenty of things to do,
Plenty of things, yeah.
especially if you're looking at community service or
Yes.
looking at doing things. I mean, we did some phenomenal things, some of which we'll get into great detail with later. But yeah, like with the, like the things with Camp Pendleton. We were the
Yes.
Santa and Mrs. Claus for Camp Pendleton.
Yes, yeah.
And,
Which was huge.
oh God, that was massive.
He really, I guess that in many ways was honestly your training ground.
It really was. It
Because-
certainly trained both of us on how to
Yes.
deal with a crowd.
Yeah, it did, and that, it's kind of
It
hard
was huge.
to look back a little bit on exactly timeline and stuff, but I think that actually was one of the first things that actually he did. I was there, but I was not dressed as Mrs. Claus. I had Christmas garb on,
Yeah,
but
you had Christmas clothing, but
not
yeah.
really in that
Not the
thing.
way you do today.
No, no, not the way I do today.
I love the
yeah.
bow, by the way. I think that looks
I know,
beautiful.
yeah.
You have lots of them. You're
Yeah.
going to see lots of these.
Yeah.
So today we're kind of all in green. We didn't
Yeah,
even plan this.
No,
it just
but
kind of happened.
we
but,
just kind of did that. But
yeah,
but yeah, I think that and maybe we should just actually talk about Camp Penn because that really was fun to do, and you should tell them about how we went through the gates of Camp Pendleton.
now, bear in mind, this is still fairly soon after 9/11.
Correct.
So the camp was completely locked down to outsiders,
Yes.
except for the military personnel, obviously. But, you had to have special ID and such to get in there. And we were contracted to come out
Yeah.
and help with the kids to
With Toys for
deliver
Tots.
to deliver the Toys for Tots
Yeah.
to kids. And so I pull up to the gate and I had a Santa Claus license that I had made for myself.
Yeah.
And I handed it to the gate guard and he looked at it. And then you saw a smile come across his face. And then he says, "Go on in, Santa."
Yeah.
So, I mean, of course, now I was in full
full garb,
garb.
yes,
I mean,
yes,
I
yes.
wasn't in civilian clothing
No,
or anything. I
no,
was
no,
dressed as Santa.
no.
But it was still kind of fun that soon after 9/11, and they let you and I in
Yes.
without even so much as a question.
Yes.
So, now, I don't recommend you try and do that in the places that have heavy security, but,
Yeah.
but it is kind of fun. It's amazing what you can get into when you look like this all the time.
Yeah.
So, and oh my God, the kids. We were there, and as Mary said, we were trying to help with the Toys for Tots distribution.
Mm-hmm.
But also, we were meeting kids whose one or both parents were deployed
Yes.
in the military service and were actually gone. And we were helping, oh my God, warehouse full. I mean, filled
Yeah,
to the rafters.
it
with
was. I mean,
everything from bikes and games to,
I think
electronics.
up to that point, aside from actually going into a toy store like
a Toys R Us.
Toys R Us or something, I'd never seen so many toys. And then of course we got there and the line was way
Instant.
around the
Yeah.
building, and so in some ways I think it was intimidating for you because you really at that point had
I had never
hardly
dealt with
any-
a crowd
yeah.
anywhere close to that size.
no,
And
and
it
even
was-
then you had only seen a really a handful of kids because you were just starting your career.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like he was real comfortable in the role yet. You were still trying to
Well, and
find your way.
you had to figure out how to control this
Yeah.
because I was sitting there.
Yes.
But, as what became the norm, Mary kind of handled crowd control
Yes,
and
yes.
you know, organization and that kind. She was going back and forth between the people at Camp Penn and me.
Yeah,
and,
yeah. Trying to
and,
get,
and,
so he'd have. I mean, the kids honestly didn't have a long visit because it was so. It was like, well, I guess it was like a mall. I mean, it was just a line that we had to keep moving.
yeah,
But
we
you
had
know,
like 4 hours, and there
yeah.
must have been literally
Thousands, and
of
it
kids.
just was, but it was certainly
Oh,
fun.
that was the most gratifying thing.
It was. I
I'll
mean,
tell you.
and I'm going to relay a little story, which is one of my favorites, and I still remember from there. He had the line was coming in, and where he was sitting, he couldn't see the line of the children coming in because they had to kind of circle around and then
Yeah.
come over to him. And there was a little boy that had come in, and I could see him in the doorway, and he was so excited. He was probably about 4, maybe 5, and he was so excited. He would just kind of go, and he was going to see Santa Claus, and he was just his little eyes. I think it stuck in my mind because it was the first time for me to see the real absolute joy in a child, and he was so excited. And when it finally became his turn, I was thinking, boy, he's gonna tell Santa all the things that he wants. And he didn't cry or fuss, and his little eyes were huge when he sat with Santa, but I think he was just
He just sat there.
Yeah,
He didn't utter a sound, didn't make a noise, just stared.
Yeah.
Like he was trying to memorize every little hair on my face.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it was just the biggest eyes, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, it was
overjoyed to be there.
Yeah, it was like a dream come true. I actually finally am sitting on Santa's lap.
Yeah.
And that kind of brings up a point that of one of the things you had to learn with being Santa was the children don't have that sense of space.
Distance. Yeah.
Yeah, your space is their space.
That's right.
And you
Yeah.
should go into that a little bit of
Yeah,
how they
actually that was kind of unnerving initially. Now I got used to it quickly,
Yeah.
and now I love it. But when they sit on your lap and they're looking at you, I mean, seriously, they are like right here, going, "Wow, look at that! He's got hair."
Yeah.
And they do. They look at your eyes and your nose and
Yes.
your of course your beard and
Yeah.
mustache and,
Yeah.
and your outfit,
Yeah.
but truthfully, they get right up close and personal.
Yes.
And if you're not used to that, that can be unnerving at first, but it's done with so much love and so
Yeah.
much enjoyment.
Exactly.
And you don't feel threatened.
Oh, no,
I mean,
no,
you
no.
never
It's
feel
just that
threatened. It's
that's
just-
kind of what they.
just kind of like, that's uncomfortable at first
Yeah.
until you get used to it. And especially special needs kids. I will tell you right now, special need kids, they don't have any problems combing your beard or touching your nose or
Yeah,
or
yeah.
feeling your face or your clothing. They want to take
Get
in
right
the
in
full
there, yeah.
sensory
Yeah.
experience
Of the
of
whole
being
thing,
with
yeah.
Santa Claus. So,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
that is something I love it now.
I
I mean, it's kind of fun to watch them stare. I mean, they could pick out the black hairs that I have in my beard without
Yeah.
a problem. So
Well, and I think that's the other thing to keep in mind. Like if like what kind of decoration you wear, like the pin or his buttons, or they actually look at them. I mean, it's not something that a child doesn't look at, and so you really gotta give consideration.
yeah, like I
To-
actually have SC buttons, and
Yeah.
they'll comment on them. Sometimes I wear a vest with reindeer on them, and they'll ask me which reindeer they are.
Right. So
So, I
something
mean, they
that, yeah.
really notice a lot of things that,
Yeah, they
that
do.
you even forget you've got on.
Exactly.
So-
Exactly. And yeah, and parents don't always see it at all, but the children do. Now I think Santa, we want to take a little break.
Okay.
We're going to have a little
Quick commercial.
quick commercial. This is something that we've just started on Etsy. So we got a little quick commercial coming
up. Autographed and dedicated copies of books, custom made clothing, one of a kind items you'll not find anywhere else. All at my Etsy store, Santa's Magic Chest, where every day is Christmas.
Well, welcome back.
Welcome back.
Ah,
Here
this
we
is my
are.
little-
Oh, sliding.
Slide
So-
back.
Quit shaking your head.
Yeah, I
so much. Anyway, but yeah, we've been talking about some of the things that we did in San Clemente, and we were talking about Camp Pendleton. But it's interesting, the work we did with Toys for Tots
Yes.
actually wound up springing us into working with the fire department
Yes.
in San
Yes.
Clemente and Sparks of Love. And actually, the San Clemente Fire Department had their own toy drop-off center and stuff as
True.
well.
Now, and we have some stories to tell on that, but I think
Yes.
we'd like to talk a little bit about the domestic women's abuse center.
Shouldn't get ahead
But
of myself.
but actually, and again, first times, I had gone there and drove the car, and I don't remember exactly how the fire department found out these things, but fire department was great, and
they were
anytime
fabulous.
they could put you on a truck, they did.
Yeah.
So
I was in
anyway,
a lot of parades and
so
other
yeah,
things,
so
and-
they said,
and we
oh,
did
we'll
community service
we'll take
things.
you up to
Yeah.
the center, and so
That's right.
sure enough,
Well, they brought a lot of the gifts.
maybe that was true too. I can't
They-
remember all
they
of that.
brought a lot of the gifts.
But sure enough, here comes Santa on this huge fire truck,
Big hook and ladder thing, and
Yeah.
it was just, oh my
and you
God.
almost fell off of it. Remember trying to get out? Of course, he again never been on a fire. I mean, it's not like
Thank God for first responders, and they know how to catch people.
Well, and you weren't in the cab.
No.
You
No,
weren't
I
in
was
the
on.
cab.
I was
you
on
know.
the top of the hook and ladder.
Yeah, so you got to realize that it's not just getting out of the cab.
No, it's a
And
long drop.
It's a long drop, yeah. So
And I almost did.
yeah, but fortunately the firefighters were right there to catch him.
But
And
anyway,
so he came in.
we walked in, and I'll tell you, it was something I could not get over. Was the fact that we had so many women and kids,
We did.
and and it's amazing the children did not trust men because of the
No,
situation
no,
they had been
no,
through,
no.
and were rather afraid of men. Now, Mary was fine. I mean,
Yeah.
they went right to her right
Yeah.
off the bat and everything.
But it was
It
definitely
took a while.
very different when you went in. It wasn't the kids were excited,
Yes.
but not, or
Yeah.
a quiet excitement. Maybe
Yeah.
that would be the way to
Yeah.
explain it
Nobody was screaming or anything
No,
like
and
that.
nobody
No, they were
ran
just, no.
to Santa at
They were
all.
just kind of like,
Yeah, and we had two chairs in the tree, and we had a bunch of presents. And actually, it was good. They let us sit there for a little while, let the kids
Yeah.
kind of watch us, and then little by little,
and we were talking to the moms.
yeah,
So
they came
that
up,
helped,
and
then-
some of the kids sat with him. A good portion did not.
Right.
It was still that, which was sad. I mean, to think that they were so afraid. But at the same token, the way they had this, it was a whole experience. We came in and we were able to sit for a long time and deliver gift the kids with the presents. Then they had food donated by various restaurants, and they had little tables where they were
arts and crafts tables
crafts
where they were decorating cookies and that kind of. Oh my heaven! And then, well, to skip to the end, by the time we were getting towards the end, we had kids all around us. They were bringing us cookies.
Yeah.
All these cookies filled with sugar that was getting all over my
icing this
suit.
high.
Yeah, icing 2 inches thick or more. And but the kids were laughing. They were having fun. I had a couple kids that didn't let go of me. I mean, just laid on my shoulder and hugged me and held me for as long, and I let them. And I just let them.
Well,
so,
and it really, it was and thank goodness we were able to spend the time there, because some of the children who would not really come up to him as we were there and laughed and talked, and then we walked through the room, and I think
and they saw other kids coming up,
and I think then some of there was that one little girl that wouldn't get close to you, but she finally did,
and when she did, she never let go.
Yeah, and for me, as Mrs. Claus, that probably was one of the more meaningful visits, because many of the children did sit with me and were afraid of him, but felt the comfort in me. And so what we did is sometimes they'd climb on my lap, and then he would give them the present. Right. But it was still.
And herein lies the importance of having a Mrs. Claus, because a lot of times kids will go to Mrs. Claus when they will not sit on Santa's lap or get even close.
That's true.
So, and it scares them. So
yeah, it does. And but I think even to this day, we've done a lot of community service events.
Yeah.
But probably we did that for several years, and that I think was really the most meaningful to our hearts of those little children. So,
and we'll get more into like working with the fire departments, because that was just we could spend a whole podcast alone just talking about
we had a lot of fun
all
with
the
them.
fun places.
They were just,
and you're gonna have to hear the story of how when we went on the with the fire department, we were going on them with emergency calls.
Yes,
so,
I mean it
and
really.
We'll touch base on that on one of our next podcasts. But we want to try and keep this within a relatively short amount of time. So. I don't want to spend all 20 years talking,
they're never going to stop,
So please, thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you
I
very
hope
much.
you join us again soon.
Yeah.
Don't forget to visit our shops, both Santa's Magic Chest, and if you like antiques or one-of-a-kind items, visit Treasures by Mrs. Claus.
Yes, we
got a lot of unique items.
Yeah, we do.
From our own personal stash that she inherited.
that I've accumulated through the years.
So anyway, but we look forward to visiting with you again at our next podcast. And until then, have a blessed week, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
Bye.